Did you know that homosexuality played a significant role in ancient Greek society? That's right. Being gay in ancient Greek was not only accepted, but celebrated. So how did they view same-sex relationships, and what kind of lives did gay men live in ancient Greece? Let's dive into the intriguing and often surprising world of homosexuality in ancient Greece. First of all, let's start with some historical context. Homosexuality was a prevalent aspect of Greek society and wasn't frowned upon as it is in modern times. It was a common practice, especially among men, and was viewed as a way of expressing love, admiration, and respect towards one another. However, it's essential to note that the ancient Greeks didn't have a specific word for homosexuality. Instead, they had different words to describe various forms of same-sex relationships. One of the most common forms of same-sex relationships in ancient Greece was pederasty. Pederasty was a relationship between an older man, known as the Orestes, and a younger boy, known as the Eromenos. This practice wasn't seen as abnormal or immoral at the time. Instead, it was viewed as a way of teaching the younger boy about life, love, and the ways of the world. The older man was expected to be a mentor and guide to the younger boy, and their relationship was more about mentorship and guidance than sexual attraction. However, it's important to note that not all same-sex relationships in ancient Greece were viewed positively. The Greeks also had a term for men who were exclusively attracted to other men known as kinidos. These men were often viewed as effeminate and deviant, and were sometimes subjected to ridicule and shame by society. But what about the concept of love and relationships between two adult men? Did the ancient Greeks view this as acceptable? The answer is somewhat complex. While the ancient Greeks didn't condemn same-sex relationships between two adult men, they also didn't view it in the same light as heterosexual relationships. In ancient Greece, marriage was seen as a sacred institution between a man and a woman, and procreation was highly valued. Same-sex relationships weren't seen as a way of continuing the family line, and as such, they weren't given the same level of respect or recognition as heterosexual relationships. However, this didn't stop men from forming lasting romantic relationships with one another. One of the most famous same-sex relationships in ancient Greece was that between Alexander the Great and his best friend and general Hephaestion. Their relationship was well known among their contemporaries, and while it's not known if they were sexually involved, they were undoubtedly close and had a deep emotional connection. So now that we've explored the history of homosexuality in ancient Greece, let's take a look at some of the more fascinating aspects of gay life in ancient Greece. For example, did you know that Greek society viewed the act of penetration as a sign of dominance? As such, it was acceptable for the older man in a pederastic relationship to be the penetrator, but not the penetrated. This led to some interesting social dynamics and power imbalances within these relationships. Another interesting aspect was the role of symposium. The symposium was a social gathering of men where they would drink wine, eat food, and engage in intellectual discussions. It was also an opportunity for men to form romantic and sexual connections with one another. It wasn't uncommon for men to pair off during a symposium and spend the night together, sometimes in a non-sexual manner, but often engaging in sexual acts. Finally, let's talk about the concept of beauty in ancient Greece. Greek society placed a high value on physical beauty, and this extended to the realm of same-sex relationships. In fact, it wasn't uncommon for older men to pursue relationships with younger boys based solely on their physical beauty. This obsession with physical beauty led to the development of the concept of kalos kagathos, which referred to the ideal of the beautiful and good man. This ideal man wasn't only physically attractive, but also possessed moral and intellectual virtues. However, it's essential to remember that not all men in ancient Greece engaged in same-sex relationships, and those who did often did so within the confines of societal norms and expectations. In conclusion, it's clear that attitudes towards homosexuality varied widely across different regions and time periods in ancient Greece, but one thing is certain: gay men played a significant role in shaping the culture and history of this fascinating civilization.